Okay, I'm back. So part 3. So tofu is often eaten with something that's a little bit warming to help us digest it. And in this case, I'm going to be having some grated ginger in this dish. So if you can see that this is a small ginger grater. This is my ginger root. Sorry, the sun is out now. And that's the best I can do in terms of the light. Sorry, bear with me. Okay, so there's your ginger root that I have grated. And I have grated it on my little ginger grater, okay? And I'm going to have to move this now because I realize that the sun is not cooperating. So here's what I've done. First of all, let's talk about, let me move this. Let's talk about Japanese eggplant. Eggplant comes from India. I always wondered why is it called egg until I went to India. And the eggplant in India are little small round things, and they can be even white in color, and they're the size of an egg and shape of an egg. So they somehow at some point made their way over from India to China. And okay, sorry, just checking the camera. Okay, so I prefer the Japanese eggplant above all the others because I love the texture. I think it gives a nicer texture than the Chinese eggplant. I don't really ever use the big giant American eggplants because they're the most bitter. So I have, I wanted to show you the simple way to cut them. Simple way to cut them is lengthwise, like that. You cut them lengthwise, and where did I put my knife? You cut them lengthwise, and then you cut them like that. And this is what you end up with, like that. And then I am going to soak these in salt water to get out the bitterness. That's number 1. And then I have taken a block of tofu. And I have sliced it across that way, halfway, and then I've simply made hatches, and now I have nice uniform, not uniform, but nice little squares of tofu. Nice little squares of tofu. And then what I've done is, how am I making this? There's a million ways you can make this. And the most traditional Chinese way, which I'm not going to do, is you deep fry the tofu and you have that nice crispy tofu on the outside. And then you stir fry the eggplant in lots of oil, which is what it takes to soften it up. And then, you go from there with your sauce. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to marinate the eggplant and tofu in a sauce that I've made. And there is the sauce. I wish you could smell it because one of the ingredients is toasted sesame oil, which makes it so fragrant. So I'm going to tell you the ingredients now in my sauce. One is a nice, inexpensive, let's see what the best light is, sorry. So this is an organic tamari sauce. And, what we call soy sauce in the US, there's 2 fundamental kinds of soy sauce in Japanese cooking. One is called shoyu, and that's the one when you get sushi and they give you soy sauce on the side. That's shoyu, and it has wheat in it, which gives it a lighter, more delicate flavor. But when you want to marinate something, generally you use tamari. Tamari, and also if you're on a gluten-free thing, tamari does not have any wheat in it. It's just water, organic soybeans, and salt. And there's many different qualities of tamari, from inexpensive to expensive. I'm using a medium one here, and it all depends on the quality of the craftsmanship when they make it. So first of all, I've put in 2 tablespoons. Let me start over. I have a package of tofu, standard size, kind of a smaller size than what you get in the American grocery, and 2 tablespoons of tamari, 2 tablespoons of my favorite sesame oil, and this is not toasted, but it's unrefined, Eden brand organic sesame oil, traditionally pressed, unrefined, has a wonderful texture and fragrance. So 2 tablespoons of that. So 2 tablespoons each of tamari and sesame oil, 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar. This is very inexpensive Japanese brand Kikkoman rice vinegar. You can get better ones. Sometimes I'll use ume plum rice vinegar, but I didn't today. And then, so 1 tablespoon of that and 2 teaspoons of toasted sesame oil. The difference between the toasted sesame oil and the regular sesame oil is the toasted sesame oil has a very delightful fragrance, and it gives a wonderful bouquet, and it's sometimes added at the end for that reason. And then you can, and that was 2 teaspoons. So, and then you want to add something a little bit sweet. The most common thing to do would be to add some rice wine. I have this beautiful Japanese rice wine that's really almost too good to use for this dish. It's an expensive one, and it's really good with some fish dishes. And I don't have a less expensive mirin, so what I'm going to do is put in 1.5 teaspoon of coconut palm sugar. And then I'm going to add this ginger that I've grated. And then I'm going to, so there we have that. And then I'm going to put the tofu in there, like that. And I'm going to marinate it. Now, it might be that I've underestimated how much of this I need, but you see how it gets, so I might just make more sauce. And I haven't actually decided whether to add garlic or not. I might, it's very traditional to have ginger and garlic together, and ginger is warming and garlic is warming, but I might just make it with ginger today. And so I'm going to marinate that. I'm going to soak the eggplant in salt water, drain it, and then add it to the tofu and marinate it. And then what am I going to do, because I don't actually want to do all that deep frying and everything, is I'm going to lay it out on a baking pan. I guess, I don't really know what, baking sheet, thank you. So I'll when I'm done marinating, and I'm going to marinate it overnight, or at least until this evening. Though you don't have to, you can make it right away. There we go. Boy, this is not as easy as it looks. I'm going to marinate it and place it on this baking sheet, and then I will bake it in the oven at about 350. I want to kind of slow bake it a little bit, so if you bake it on too high, the eggplant won't cook. I'm going to bake them on separate pans because the eggplant will probably take more time than the tofu. So when I'm done, I'm going to have baked tofu that'll be kind of crisp on the outside and soft on the inside, as if it had been deep fried, but it's not going to be oily. And then the eggplant will be kind of soft. And then once I've done that, then I will probably stir fry that in a wok with some other vegetables. And I haven't decided yet, but probably lotus root and carrot. And I will get back to you when I do that and maybe show you how I do that. We're in the COVID virus now, and it has me thinking about foods to strengthen the lung energy. And we could talk about that for a moment, is that the lung qi in Chinese medicine likes to be slightly cool, but not cold and not hot. So, your lungs are very delicate, right? There's a wide range of things you can swallow into your stomach in terms of foods and liquids that your stomach tolerates quite well from, in small amounts, from whiskey to ice cream. But your lungs don't tolerate non-clean air very well at all. And when we get sick with any kind of febrile illness, the lung yin dries out because of the pathological heat of the fever and inflammation. Conversely, when people have a problem of cold dampness and weakness of their immune system, the kind of people that get allergies and asthma and get a lot of phlegm all the time, they often have cold trapped in the lungs. So, but the bigger problem for the lungs is the pathological heat from febrile illness. And that's why when we look at things that nourish the lungs, foods that nourish the lungs, they're always foods that are moistening and cooling, like pear. If you think about pear, the fruit, if you compare the slippery texture of a pear to that of an apple, you'll understand that from the Chinese medicine's perspective, that slippery characteristic of the pear is what makes it nourishing to the yin. That it's slightly sweet, and it's also cooling. Pears have this kind of cooling feel to them. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, compare a bite of pear to a bite of apple. Also, like 2 ounces of pear juice, unfiltered, unsweetened pear juice versus apple juice. It's just got this lovely slippery quality. And that's really good when your lungs are overheated from febrile illness, or for that matter, from talking too much, such as you do if you're a teacher. So some of the vegetables that are strengthening to the lung energy are radish, like daikon radish, and another one is lotus root. So I might, and lotus